Here's the big breaking news that just came down. Has been updated in the past 15 or so minutes. But, earlier I did a segment on the feud that was going on. So I definitely want to talk about this canvassers meeting because I'm thinking, I don't know, man, these Republicans that were on the board of canvassers to certify the vote for Biden. This guy was trying in every way possible to make sure he would give Biden the win, even though there were serious challenges.
We talk about Pennsylvania or which state?
Michigan. Okay.
What county?
Wayne County.
Wayne County. Yeah.
But let's just breaking news.
Oh, sure.
They say the board of state canvassers certified Michigan's November general election results Monday. The board, made up of 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, met November 23rd to make the vote count official after 83 Michigan counties certified their election results, which includes Joe Biden's 2.8% statewide victory over Trump. They say Aaron Van Langeveld, a Republican canvasser and an attorney for the House Republican caucus, said the board doesn't have many options outside of performing its duty to certify the election. Quote, "This board must respect authority entrusted to it and follow the law as it is written. We must not attempt to exercise power we do not have," Van Langeveld said. "We have a clear legal duty to certify the results of this election. We cannot and should not go beyond that." And I'm going to stop right there and say I completely agree with this Republican, except they're not doing their duty at all. So one of the arguments that was brought forward was certify means to determine the veracity, to assert that it's true and correct. And they literally don't do that. They're just like, here are the results. Have a nice day. Rubber stamp. Move on.
Well, I thought that was an interesting way to word it, too. I've been following that in Wayne County where they're basically saying it's their job to certify the election. But like, as you said, not really.
Just a rubber stamp.
But that's part of what you do. But you didn't do the other part of the job. So, I mean, to come in now and say, well, I'm just doing my job. This is for America.
He's scared of the mob.
Yes, right. Well, we saw with doxing and family threats and things like that.
He's terrified.
Yeah.
So for those that aren't familiar, Wayne County, which has Detroit, previously was deadlocked 2-2, and the left and Democrats started naming where these Republicans' kids were going to school. They were getting legit threats, and then they issued an affidavit saying we were pressured into this, we were tricked into it. They were promised an audit, and that was reported. There was going to be an audit, and then they're saying nope, we're not going to do it. Too bad, you lose. So now it's coming to this guy, but here's the thing: the other Republican, there are 2 Republicans. He abstained. He didn't even vote no.
What?
So look, man, I tell you, you got a lot of people who think it's the end of the world. They're saying, if Trump does lose this and Biden gets in, it's going to be great reset. It's going to be, all of the worst possible things, massive lockdown, and the lockdown's getting crazy. And if you don't got any Republicans who are willing to stand up and say no, well then, dude, I probably already lost.
Yeah.
And the political space, I mean, not like the literal war or anything.
Yeah, there are
a
few states where Republicans stood tall, and I think if you're worried about lockdowns, I mean, Trump's president right now. Look what's happening in California, New York, Pennsylvania, trying to get people to wear masks in their own home.
Yeah, that's great.
It's what do you? I mean, lockdowns are. I mean, they're here. The lockdowns are here right now, and unless you have a state with really, it seems like a Republican dominant Supreme Court, you're living under these rules. You see that Minnesota tried to have $1,000 fine for socializing with somebody outside of your house.
Oh my gosh.
And then a $25,000 fine if you publicly said you weren't going to obey these rules. And I am
what?
That was came out of their governor. I'm sure it didn't pass, but this was what he proposed. This is like one state away from me. And what do you mean? Joe Biden's not president right now.
Yeah, because where are you at? Do you want to?
Wisconsin.
Yeah,
I live in Wisconsin.
Wanted to say whatever, but. And in this is crazy, Newark, New Jersey, they're saying you can't leave your home at all. But apparently now there's people saying like, try me, and so we don't know if they're going to enforce it. But they tried saying you don't leave your house. But let's take a look at this real quick. They say Charlie Spees, who represents Senate candidate John James, said the meeting should be adjourned until Wayne County's results are audited. Our position isn't that this election shouldn't be certified, but that the Board of State Canvassers should only do that when it's confident the results it is certifying are correct. Literally what certifying means. I'll tell you, you know what was crazy about this board meeting earlier? You had this one guy, Aaron Van Langeveld or whatever his name is. This dude's clearly terrified of the mob. And look, I'll put it this way. It's my opinion. But he was doing everything in his power to justify why he would not try and get this looked into. So you had one guy, it was this guy, Charlie Spees, who represents John James, Senate candidate. And he said, according to, Section 116, it says you have the authority to certify the results, and that is defined legally as determining whether it's true, which means your job is to determine whether this is true, and you have that authority to do so. This guy Aaron starts saying, "Oh, I don't see anything within the statutes that grants me that power," and then he says it even says you have the right to adjourn for any necessary purpose. And then this Republican guy goes, "Well, I mean, I can't just make something up." And they're like, "You're not. You if you want to certify the results are true, then that means there needs to be an audit. That means you adjourn until you have the ability to certify the results are true." So basically what happened in Wayne County was that there's a signature books, I guess, is my understanding. And there were more people who have signed in than there were people or there was a different amount of people who signed in than voted, creating a massive discrepancy in like 70% of the, the voting precincts or whatever.
And they couldn't figure out really how to rectify that either, right? I think that's where they stuck. They were basically like, we know this is wrong, but we have no way to. It's kind of like with the mail-in ballots. Once they throw out the envelope, they can't do this signature verification.
Yeah. Dude, how crazy is it that what we have learned? I'll tell you this: if all that ends up coming out of Trump's legal battles for the presidency is that we have these lawsuits and the results, then I'm eternally grateful. I'm eternally grateful because here's what we learned: we learned that if you have an unbalanced, ballot book or whatever, where you have more voters than votes and less voters than votes, doesn't matter. No one seems to care. Hey, no, that's fine. We'll rubber stamp that, send it on through. Yeah. And in Pennsylvania, what's really crazy, Third Circuit Court of Appeals just dismissed Trump's appeal, saying that they have no standing. And this was the suit claiming that there were no observers for 682,000 votes. So you know what that means? It means that you can be running election, and you can straight up just tell a massive urban voting, counting center, okay, kick all the Republicans out. Kick them all out. And now we're going to say everything is for our candidate, and they can't do anything about it because the courts have already ruled we don't have to.
Wasn't that guy a never Trumper too? The guy in Pennsylvania. Am I thinking of the right guy? The guy who ruled against it. I feel like something came out where he was a never Trumper.
Interesting.
And
yeah.
There's something
the
there.
first guy, the state. I think it was the first at the state level, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, Trump's campaign has said this is a good thing because it means they're going to get closer to SCOTUS. As if, like, why would it matter if it's SCOTUS or a federal judge? If you lose, you lose, and you appeal, and then, I mean, unless they think they've got some political clout among specific judges.
Well, and you don't have Amy Coney Barrett right now either, right? She's recused herself from.
Has she?
I thought she recused herself from
I don't
any.
think so.
Is that not true? I
don't
felt like
know.
she said she had recused herself from
That would, I hadn't heard about that.
any type of election.
I know they were
ruling.
asking her to, and I think she kept saying, "I can't give you an opinion on."
Okay.
They put
But I
her
don't
in
know.
charge of that district.
Yeah, she was just put in charge
If
of Wisconsin.
Ian was here, he could have
I know.
fact
He
checked
could have
that.
fact checked it. Let me look it up.
Well,
Yes.
Lydia can.
I know,
But
yeah.
they just did the new SCOTUS appointments where they assign the judges to different circuits. Yeah, so.
So maybe that doesn't make sense then if she's going to preside over. Wisconsin.
No. I mean, it doesn't mean she's going to preside over an election case. But
okay.
yeah, so the fact that the federal judge kicked back and dismissed Trump's lawsuit within I think it was 2.5 hours or something, that actually could be good, because the one thing I think that might matter if it goes to the Supreme Court is that they might have it might have a bigger impact outside of just that specific circuit. So if they rule the federal level, the Supreme Court level, mail-in votes for this reason are no good, then the whole election is just upended.
Well, let's play a game, right? Let's say that's true. What happens there? Do you just say, we're just not going to count these 700,000 votes? Are they recast? I mean, let's say hypothetically, this has been my struggle is where there's smoke, as you put it, it's like, okay, well, then what? You just throw out 700,000 votes? I can't see that happening.
There's no circumstance where I think any rational person has faith in our elections anymore.
A lot of people are black-pilled, which sucks. I see it in my comment sections. I see it in your live chat. I see a lot of faith lost in the elections system. And I agree that Trump is doing a good thing by at least fighting this and exposing some things, because hopefully these things can be corrected. In particular, let's worry about fewer mail-in ballots where people can go to somebody's house and just say, here, I filled it out for you, just sign. That kind of stuff.
I only have faith in elections because Trump won in the first place. Mm-hmm. When Hillary was running, I was like, what's the point?
Right.
And then when she didn't win, I was like, whoa.
He must have won by 7 million votes. That's how I felt.
I mean,
I felt he must have won by a landslide if he had managed, because I figured they would have tried every little thing,
Yeah. Trump ended up winning, and then I thought, wow, I guess people can really win. Well, okay. So then I voted this time around, and then now Biden's projected to win. And based on what we've learned throughout these lawsuits, yeah, I got very little faith in the election system at all. Like the fact that we've got all these sworn affidavits of impropriety in Georgia. You've got a sworn statement from, I think there's I read 5 different affidavits where they were saying things like, I watched them pull up votes that were perfectly, not folded, no creases, and it looked like it was machine printed.
What about all the post office ones? Did all those affidavits go away where people are saying, I swear, people were swearing to the fact that they were backdating votes?
They don't care.
What? Yeah, that just disappeared.
We're supposed to just sit here and be like, well, we have a USPS whistleblower who said they were
more than one, I think it was.
More than one.
Yeah.
We've got numerous affidavits out of Georgia. We've got numerous mathematical anomalies that have been tracked, even by, there was a Yale professor, I guess, who was like, wow, that doesn't make sense. And then we've got the Voter Integrity Fund, which has found thousands of voters in Georgia who used fake addresses. Apparently adding apartment numbers to commercial addresses and mailboxes. And we're supposed to ignore everything and carry on like everything's okay and just assume, hey, you know what? This is legitimate and...
Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. Come on. So if this is how it really ends, then why would I bother participating in an election ever again?
I hope people don't. I understand that line of thinking. But what I think is that people who feel that way should be really concerned about getting involved in election reform. Specifically, mail-in ballots. Look, if you're an active duty military person and you're overseas, 100% understand why that exists. But the idea that the fact that you cannot, there were literally people that were going door to door and helping people fill out ballots. I talked to you before the show. I said, people showed up at my home looking for my wife to say, has she voted? What were they there to? What were they doing there? And I've said before,
harvesting.
Yeah, they weren't from around there, is what I'll say. They weren't from my city. They clearly weren't there stumping for Trump. And I do think Trump made a tactical error, spending too much time trying to discredit mail-in ballots, and not trying to slow them, stop them, or encourage his Republican base to still use them. Because I feel like there are people who didn't go on election day, and then they're like, well, Trump says mail-in ballots are no good, so I'm just not even going to do that. I feel like that was a Trump error. That was definitely a tactical error. You
know that we had 500,000 rejected ballots in the Democratic primary? Mail-in ballots?
Well, yeah. Did you see how many they rejected in the presidential election?
Yeah, where
6.
Where are they?
Yeah.
It's unprecedented.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to sit here watching the news. I'm just citing news. These stories about potential fraud and irregularity are coming from regular old news outlets.
Local news too. Local news, yeah.
I guess it's what they expect of us. Every single one of us just ignores it because every single here's the way I describe it to people. Imagine you're walking past a building, you hear the smoke alarm going off, and you're like, "Wow, smoke alarm usually means fire, huh?" So you call 911 and you say, "Hey, there's a smoke alarm going off," and the operator goes, "Did you see any fire?"
There's no widespread fires currently on record.
Yeah, right. We have no reports of widespread fire anywhere. No, but the alarm is going off. Sir, unless you have evidence of widespread fire in the building, do you want me to go inside and check? I'll tell you what happens when the smoke alarm goes off. The fire department shows up. They come outside and they go, false alarm. And you go, thank you. And then you feel better. You feel safer. So that's the bare minimum. This is the crazy thing. I'm saying if Democrats are so confident it's over and they've won, then why don't they just say, okay, baby, here's your bottle. We're going to do your little audit for you and waste time and energy. And then we're going to hold it over you.
Well, why
They're blocking it.
Yeah. Well, why wouldn't they want to double own Trump? This would be the double Trump own. And honestly, for all the money that our government wastes, foreign wars and all this kind of stuff, I don't know, maybe spend it on making sure our election's good and not have just one dude be like, this is the safest election in American history. But, before any audits had been done, before any evidence had been out, people are just like, oh, well, I mean, we saw how the FBI, had their political leanings. We had Comey. We know that there's a rot from inside. So I think people like myself are like, oh, well, the guy from the FBI says, okay, well, all right. We know that they're partisan. And go ahead.
It's a really good example of something I talk about all the time. I talk about how you'll get some kind of evidence of impropriety or criminal activity, and then all of a sudden you'll get some fringe conspiracy theory. Everyone adopts that theory, and then all of a sudden you can't talk about the actual problem anymore. So, for example, I reference like Pizzagate, for instance. There are a lot of questionable emails. It seems like they're talking in code, saying weird things. Yeah, probably just code for drugs or something, some kind of improper act.
Right.
Then all of a sudden you get people talking about pizza places and you know, Satan, and the guy shows up and goes crazy with a rifle and shoots the floor, and now all of a sudden it's shut up, ignore this.
Yep.
And so we have all of this evidence of impropriety. And then I'll tell you, and I know the Trump supporters get mad, when Sidney Powell went on TV and she went on Newsmax and said that Governor Kemp was taking money from the communists and working against Trump or whatever, I was like, right away, she derailed the legitimate conversation. Bad. And don't take my word for it. The Trump campaign issued a statement.
They disavowed. Yeah, they disavowed her almost immediately.
That's what the left is saying. The right is saying they're just positioning her so that she's, you know, acting now independent or whatever. And I'm like, dude, listen.
It read like a disavowal to me.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The fact that they had to issue a statement saying she's doing things on her own, come on. The Trump campaign knows their legal path to victory, and they know what she was saying wasn't including it. And the things she was bringing up about Dominion and Smartmatic and all this stuff is just too out there. You can't prove it in a court.
Yep.
So saying all these things over and over again, that's what I talk about all the time. It's like it's man, it's so easy to derail when someone's actually on your tail with what you're doing, and they're like, uh-oh, they figured it out. They've noticed all of these, you know, affidavits swearing fraud. Quick, throw them something ridiculous about Venezuela.
Poison the well. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and like, to be honest, what's infuriating for me is for the last 4 years, we were supposed to believe that Russia flipped the entire 2016 election. You had these clips of that shill John Oliver, my opinion, not Tim's. Like a year ago, he's like, voting machines, we shouldn't be using voting machines. They're prone to errors. And then like 1 year later, he's like, voting machines are the most secure thing ever. How can
you see what?
Go ahead.
You got to see his tweet. It was a really clever play on words. He did a 20-minute segment where he's like, "This woman went in current year and flipped the election in 2 minutes."
Yeah.
Come on, people. And I'm like, so he has a lady do a demonstration where she walks to the machine, she takes a ballpoint pen, pops it open, and she pulls out the drive and swaps it or whatever, and took her less than 2 minutes. And then they issued a statement on Twitter where they're like, "Notice you may have noticed conservative media is pushing this narrative."
Yeah.
Well, the truth is, the biggest problem, as we said, is blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait. The biggest problem? I don't care about the biggest problem. I care about problems.
Well, that's the poisoning the well thing, right? It's
Exactly.
almost like they gave them something totally absurd that some regular old horse mom, you know, had a memory card, the right kind of memory card, by the way. It's not just any memory card. You'd have to know, it's a mini XD or it's whatever. Then you'd have to have votes on it. Unless, I guess, you could steal it from like a Democratic stronghold. But even set, like, it's just so absurd.
This is the game they play. He does a 20-minute segment where he says, here's a list of problems, A, B, C, D, E. But the biggest problem is clearly A. Then when you bring up, whoa, we found evidence of B, he goes, we said A was the biggest problem.
Right.
Yes, but you also said B was a problem too.
Yeah.
So that's how they're trying to fake backtrack. It's a framing device where stupid people are going to be like, oh, he's saying it's not real. Oh.
Well, it's also the same thing where they try to gaslight people and say, well, nobody dead voted. There were no dead voters. But yeah, absolutely there were. Yes, there are in most elections, but they'll gaslight and say like, well, it wasn't enough to change election. Okay, well, 10,000 here. You got 5,000 votes in Georgia. All this stuff adds up.
My position is, I don't care if it flipped the election or not. Why are there dead voters?
Right.
Seriously?
Fix the problem.
There was a fact check I saw. This is funny. They were like, no, you know, what's Flecka's? They're like, Flecka's put out this tweet saying they found 10,000 dead voters on the, having voted or whatever. So we did a random sampling of 50 people and found 2 of them were still alive. 1 person was wrongly labeled. It was actually their son of the same name. And yes, in fact, 1 person was dead. But this proves, and I'm like, wait. You found a dead person who voted?
1 in 50.
Yeah, I know. It was something like that. Yeah. I'm like, shouldn't we like check that? Because that's weird. How did that happen?
Well, maybe if you didn't have mail-in ballots. You know what I mean? And you could go, there was this article by Vice today, or the other day. Did you see where they put out like, maybe we should make voting mandatory?
Yes. That was BuzzFeed, I think.
Or BuzzFeed, yeah.
Did you know that in Australia,
it is mandatory there,
and they only get 90 to 95% turnout?
Yeah.
And there were many jurisdictions across the U.S. with more than 100% turnout.
Interesting.
And they offered up all these different explanations.
Tim, spare me your alt-right conspiracy theories. I read all the articles about you before I came on the show. I've got my de-radicalization suit on underneath this hoodie. Just come on. It never happened. It couldn't possibly happen.
Why won't you guys just accept that Joe Biden is your Supreme Chancellor already? I mean president. President.
Yeah. Whoops.
Wait. Did I say it too soon?
Yeah, you did.
I think it was Supreme Leader. I'm not sure. Yeah. Right.
I'm not even convinced. So look, I actually don't think there needs to be any kind of grand conspiracy either. There's a lot of people seem to think there is. Like Rudy Giuliani says, it appears to be coming from a centralized place, and I'm like, dude.
Same place he bought his hair dye, probably.
Yeah.
Problematic.
But
Yeah,
look at Antifa doesn't need a leader to organize in different cities. They do have leaders, but here's how it operates. There's no national Antifa guy who's like, everybody go to this place.
Right.
There's passive and active Antifa. There are Antifa people who are very, very active, who are vetting people, and they're the ones running the websites. And they'll be like, hey, we're going to go protest in Berkeley. Send the word out to the other groups. Mm-hmm. And then they all show up. So when it comes to an election, when you see weird anomalies and weird numbers, it could be because where are the rejected mail-in ballots? Rejection rates are supposed to be 1 or 2%. Mm-hmm. They're nowhere to be. We're not rejecting ballots. Mm-hmm. So probably what's happening is you get 1 or 2 people who are like, this is fine to me. And we one of the rulings in Pennsylvania was that even though people failed to fill out their address and date the actual the envelopes, the judge said, no, that's fine. That's acceptable. It's like,
well, why wouldn't it be, Tim?
How do you know it came from the person? Well, because the form itself says it, but who filled out the envelope and sent it in?
Well, we talked about before going on air that I received, and my wife received mail-in ballots. We never requested them.
Yeah.
It takes, at least in my state, just a name and a birth date, which is publicly available. There are absolutely political groups that are mailing these things. And then you follow that up with people showing up at your house, being like, hey, have you filled out your mail-in ballot? Well, let me help you. Because there have been several videos of people on the porch with some poor old granny who's baking some sort of friendship bread or something. And then they're like, oh, well, no. Okay, so you want to vote for Biden, right? Mm-hmm. And then, oh, okay. And then all this ballot harvesting in Minnesota, that's all just alt-right conspiracy theory.
Just gone.
Never happened. Yeah, it never happened, even though there's video evidence of a dude doing it.
Right.
This, again, goes back to we strongly need to reconsider mail-in balloting. It's just too insecure.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.